Do you want to know how to be able to do this? Okay, how about this one? Ooh, oh, this one over here is good too. Well, unfortunately, I can't show you how to build all of these cool enclosures, but I can give you some secret tips and some useful hints on how to build realistic enclosures and certain realistic parts of enclosures. In today's video, we will be looking over everything that goes into making a realistic enclosure, and going over the fencing, going over roofing. We'll be going over foliage, and most importantly, just how to bring the enclosure all together to make it look as realistic and natural as possible. For this video, I have made an entire enclosure, just a small one for an armadillo, that includes your basic stuff. You have a shelter, you have like a nice roofing over top, you have a nice backdrop with like the foliage, and you have a decent outside area with a indoor area. And in today's video, we will not be doing a speed build of this enclosure. I will be picking apart the entire enclosure into 5 main crucial areas, and I'll be showing you how I made those things and going more in depth on how I actually made them and what process of thinking goes into actually making it look realistic and more believable as a natural enclosure you would find in a zoo. 5 areas we'll be looking at are fencing, roofing, foliage, planters, which is different from foliage, and we will also be looking at making realistic walls. But anyway, let's get right into that. Let's waste no more time. Let's go into the tutorial. So before we even get into the actual tips, I wanted to just stay as like a bonus tip, I guess. That's that one of the most important factors in building a realistic enclosure, or just an enclosure in general, is to have good inspiration and actual good idea for what you're building. While building this enclosure, you might actually find surprising is that it wasn't actually the building that I found challenging. It was actually the idea, or like coming up with what the habitat would look like, was the most difficult part. Because there are so many animals that are similar to each other in size and shape, it might be hard to come up with unique ideas. My best tip for you in terms of doing inspiration is to look online. Simple but effective. Look on Facebook groups, look online, just search up whatever animal you want. Or even if it's not, if you have an animal that you want to build for in the game, but you can't find anything online for, search up a similar animal of that same type, and you'll find other enclosures online that I'm sure will also be inspirational. You can also find enclosures just randomly on like Pinterest or whatever like that. Any kind of site, even on like Instagram or social media, any site can be used to figure out what kind of inspiration you can use. And if that doesn't work, at last, like fail safe, go to your closest zoo. Go to your actual zoo in real life. I do that all the time. I go to my local zoo. I try to get there once a month, and that kind of like jogs back my my interest in building a lot, especially when I'm like down and like I don't really know what to build for. I'll always just go to the zoo, and that's just like your last safe. Like if you can't get inspired by pictures online, go to the zoo, enjoy yourself for the day, come take some pictures, and use that for your inspiration if that works for you. Alright, we're back in actual real time right now. So what we did for this enclosure, you can see we have a lot of different parts here, but honestly, if you split it up into different sections, it's not overall too complex. Not just the pieces, but just the layout in general. You have this obvious kind of like wall separating, like kind of like a stage wall, where you have the people walking in behind here. You have this wall separating it, very thick wall. You can even have like the planter obviously in the middle, and then that separates it into the armadillo kind of outdoor section here. And then you have our kind of small building, which I believe is only actually not that big in size if you really consider the size of the armadillo, which shows that you don't really need to make some like over the top kind of building or a really big enclosure. I know for some larger species you would, but for this kind of enclosure you really don't need to go extremes. You also don't, this is a personal preference for me, I don't always take the traversable area of the animal into account. If the, you can see right now with the armadillo, it has 57 meters squared and a 230 meters squared. That does not bug me. I have animal welfare turned off. I know a lot of people do like to play with the animal welfare because they care about the animals, and I also do, but I also like to keep it in more realistic terms, because I know that a lot of zoos have a lot smaller space than what the animal actually should have. And that is not like a diss on zoos or anything like that, but I know that I've seen a lot of zoos that just have this. And also the game's traversable area or like space requirements itself for a lot of the species are kind of out there, especially if you look at larger animals like the polar bear, which are ridiculously high when they don't need to be. And that includes like a lot of animals. Again, this would probably be a decent space or like a decent sizable enclosure in a real life zoo, so I tried to keep it realistic as way. If you want to make it bigger and fit the space requirements of the armadillo, all the more power to you. I no disrespect for that. I honestly kind of respect it even more because I don't really have the patience to deal with the animals that long. So what are we gonna start with? What are we gonna like do to start off with this? Now the thing that I usually start off with in an enclosure is the fencing, because the fencing acts as your groundwork. Fencing is kind of like a layout. A lot of people actually have seen this in other games and in Planet Zoo itself. People use the terrain to mark out where they want their enclosure to be, which is a super smart idea. I do the same, although I'm a bit less unpredictable. I usually do fencing. Now this is a bit more complex because you need to know what kind of fencing to do, which is what I'm going to show right now. Alright, so we got our wall piece over here. I've just taken it from the actual enclosure, but we're not going to be focusing on too much on that. So, if you want to just start by recreating this fence, if you just want to do a regular fence, now it depends on what kind of animal you want. If you want to do a really small kind of animal like I've done here, glass is usually the way to go. I've used glass a lot when including like smaller animals, maybe like wombats or anything in that kind of size range or smaller, because it acts like a nice, you don't really need mesh for that. But I've also seen that glass is used a lot in real life zoos, and at my local zoo, a lot of these smaller animals like meerkats and porcupines, actually not the best example because the quills, but they do use glass and a lot of rock work and stuff to fence in these animals. So we'll be using glass here. Now the glass pieces that I usually use are the glass panes. You can use the glass wall set if you are a bit more comfortable with the gridded pieces, and you can get some interesting stuff from that. I usually use these smaller pieces for glass because the ones that are really big and on the grid set are usually really big. Now this can be useful, but I just prefer to use more off-grid stuff, and you'll find that with a lot of the stuff I do in this enclosure in this tutorial is mostly off-grid pieces, because off-grid pieces are a lot more flexible, and the only time I will use a on-grid piece is usually if the texture of the piece itself is really good. But in this case, I can do without doing like this cool like kind of thicker glass style. So we're gonna go and search up glass pane. You'll see it narrows down a lot to these non-grid glass pieces, and you have a variety of different stuff. You have these long, tall ones. You have these huge ones, which can be good for maybe larger windows in like indoor buildings, which I have used in the House of Strawbikes. I'll cut to you right there. But we'll be sticking to the smaller fences for now. Now what you want to do, I usually use this one or even something like this, even smaller. They don't have a square one like you see here, so what we're going to do is you're going to turn on angle snap to 45 degrees. You can do it whatever you want, but I just feel 45 degrees is probably the easiest, and it's probably the setting that I leave on most. And we're going to put it on its side, and we're going to stick it into the ground. Now if you want, you can put it another one right here, so you have that kind of like beam, I guess, on the bottom, so it looks a bit more artificial. I don't, and I'm going to show you why, because we're going to put beams on the outside edge of it. Now I think these are see-through, so again they're not one-way. There are one-way pieces here, but they do not have they're a lot more thick, but it all depends on preference. Now you're going to go into, we're actually going to search up fence, ironically, and you're going to see all these different fence options. Now what I do with a lot of the metal kind of styles signs, or sorry, not the signs, the fences, is I use this, which is the European cast iron fence. I believe, yes, it is in the Euro pack. So you will need the Euro pack, and I'm going to show you an alternate if you do not have the Euro pack. In a second. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it against the glass, so you have an exact 90-degree angle right there, and you're going to put it on its side once again. And what I want you to do is actually change the color before you place a bunch of them down, because it is a lot more difficult to change the color of them if they're in the way of the glass. Because if you put the fence a bit too far in, like that, then it can be difficult to actually highlight things. And if you have 6 of them around here, then it can be even more difficult to highlight them all. And what I find is that when I accidentally do that and I want to change the color of them, then I accidentally hit something and then it just calls go blah, and then I just have to restart, and it's not a fun process. So we're gonna start by recoloring this into a kind of like a darker gray, and I really like to play with the color spectrum here. I don't just like to choose from these different options just because I like to be a lot more precise, but the colors options over there do have nice options as well. Alright, so now that we got our color, you are going to put it here, and the reason I say start with the top and not the bottom is because if you start from the bottom and you go again up here, you're going to see that you get that kind of glitchy texture here. However, if you start from the top and you move this to the top, then do it again, you can put it exactly below, so that way you don't get that that texture, that glitchy kind of texture. If you want to be extra fancy and do things a bit faster, you can do that and then Command C it over here, and then 1, 2, multi-select, and put that down. Ooh, I messed up there. I accidentally hit the 2 axes at the same time. We're gonna put that just right there. Okay. So that is that, and then we are gonna do the same thing but across. Now we're gonna go into this group, take 1, put it back onto its front, or I guess like its rightful position. And we're gonna put this right here. Now you may notice a bit of glitchiness. It can be hard to avoid at times, especially because you notice it's like coming through here. So sometimes you just gotta deal with it. And then we're gonna do another one on here. Okay. Now if you really want to be extra fancy, like we're gonna try and recreate this, then you can duplicate that again, and you can make it a bit more thicker in the beam. So a lot of zoos have it. A lot of zoos do have it like this, where they just have the things one after another. If you take this and we put the glass in that, here we'll just select everything in this group. A lot of zoos just have it like this, where they'll just Command C it and do it like that, which is also great. Another thing that zoos also do, if you want to be another like more realistic, is delete that, and then I guess that was a bit more even. That's probably good. You do that, and then they just leave the front bar like that. If I can actually delete that, and like that again. It's really up to you what you want to do. This is just for small enclosures. If we go back here to what we had though, did I put this all in one group? I did. Alright, so now if you want to do an extra step like we have here, you can make thicker beams on the edges of the fence. So now we're going to put 4 of these together, and you're going to take these 2, duplicate like that, and then we're going to change the color of those 4 together. So there you go. And we're going to go to the thing, and we're just going to go a tad bit darker. And this is why I say use the color wheel instead of those like icons, because if you choose one of these, then it goes to extreme. You see how that one's really light compared to this, and then you go immediately to like a darker gray. If you use the color thing, you can be a lot more precise in how dark you want it to be compared to the other beam. I think that's probably good for me. We're going to take these 4, we're going to duplicate over here, and then we're going to take all these, and we're going to duplicate them just like we did last time. Oh, I just messed that up again. I don't know what my butterfingers are doing here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Select all 8 of them. Command Z. Just like so. Okay. Now we have that. The other thing I want to do is to show you guys. Is what we do here with the little, on this reference fence, we have these little like buds going on here. And this is something, I was kind of experimenting with this to see if this would work. It will not. But what I did use on this is the LED cap, I believe. This is also European. So that's nice. If you do that, what was it called? Tube cap. Yes, there we go. So you're going to stick this right on the top of your fence. Like so. You're going to color it to be very similar. Now it can be different depending on like what materials are. Like if you choose the same color for both materials, they might still not look the same color because it depends on the material of the piece. But we're going to move one of those like that. Okay, and our final step is to, and I've made the pieces a lot darker on this version, but it doesn't really matter. You can move this, and this is actually a post. So you can search up post. And then you can look through all these different ones. I usually use, where is it here? The one with the square. There it is. Alright. Can we flexi color this? We can. So you can change this color to be more similar like that. And then you can put this just like so. And again, just like we did last time, you're going to put one like that. You're going to put one like that. Command both of them. And voila, there you are. This is basically like a same replica. Now, the reason I say do that, and then duplicate them and put them below is because I will show you, if we delete these, let me do one like that, we do one like that first. If we select both of them, this is what we get with the axis thing. Now, it can be very hard, obviously, if we choose the blue circle, or the blue axis, then it will not line up. This is why I say do this and then duplicate them and put them like below, because it can be very tricky to line them up with each other, and it's a lot more effort that I really don't want to do, and I'm sure you guys don't want to do either. And that's pretty much it. That is how you do a basic fence for like this kind of realistic. Alright, foliage is up next, and I know I mentioned earlier that we have planters and foliage are two different topics that we'll be going into, and they are different. Planters are more relating with guest areas, and foliage I am talking more about natural areas in your enclosure. So we'll be looking at this part of the enclosure, the backdrop here where we have the rock wall and lots of foliage going over it. So we're going to try and recreate this. We're not actually going to use it as a reference because we are just that good. So we're going to start with a stalagmite wall. Now this is something you can easily download on the workshop. I myself use these as a workshop item because I am too lazy to do it, and I love that people have already done it better than me. But I will be showing you how they made it in the first place. So you're going to search up stalagmite. There we go. Alright, so you're going to flip it over. You're going to use this long one, the third one, and you're going to put it however far up you want. And what you're going to do now is you're going to place that, and you're just going to like move them ever so slightly as you go along. Now I'm going to try and be a little less descriptive on this portion of the video because we did have a separate foliage or planters video going over foliage in a more detailed state, and also rock work. So if you were missing on how to do that, then go check out the video. That was all the way back in like June. But regardless, it still holds up. Yeah, we're gonna move these ever so slightly. Now if you want to create different patterns in your rock wall, you can also bring them to the front and overlap like so. So you can do that, and look at that. If you want to do even higher crescents, then you can like take that, you can do like that, and you can make them higher, whatever you want. And obviously you can go back and kind of like move things around to make it more unique, because the ultimate goal here is to not make it feel like you copied and pasted. The big key, one of the big keys to making realistic enclosures is making it feel like, or making like the viewer realize that you did not just copy and paste every single thing. You might have done that with the fences, which is totally fine because I do that myself, but with foliage and rock work, the big thing is to not make it look copy and pasted and like kind of like bland, because ultimately if you have the same thing, it's like if you have the same like kind of like foliage piece over and over again in like a single row, then it's kind of obvious that you just kind of copied and pasted it and kind of really kind of lazy with it. With this, you can still be lazy, and there are still tricks to it, but it gives off the effect that you did take the time into it, and you did, because this takes a lot of work. So anyway, we have our kind of stalagmite wall here. We'll keep all this. Now the good thing here is that you can put this all into one group. You can choose its color. I always do like kind of like a brownish kind of thing. You can also do like a gray if you're doing, I don't know, like a mountain kind of enclosure. We can do kind of like a brownish kind of style here, and that looks pretty good. But now that's only one part. And then also, if you were making a larger rock wall, what you can do is you can go into this group and you can take sections of it just by scanning over small parts and using that to add on to it. And what I also learned here is that you can actually make planters within your rock wall. So you can make kind of like ledges and slopes here. Just like so. And then with that, you can add maybe some mulch. Just our little small kind of thing here. Make sure our align to surface is off. And just like that, you can add some nice little planter there on the side of the wall. So now we're on to the fun part, which is actually making the foliage. Now, the big thing with foliage is to kind of stick with a specific pattern. You don't want to use like a million different types of foliage in your enclosure because, number one, they won't always match the same kind of biome, and it also wouldn't. It also kind of is overwhelming if you use too many different foliage pieces, especially ones that look very different from each other. So we're gonna stick with the same kind of tropicalness kind of vibe of foliage. So the ones I recommend using in this case, that is that you want to have kind of like a different variation of wall climbers, so plants that will go over your wall and kind of like grow over top of it, and plants that will stay at the top of your wall. And those, I believe, I have my favorites listed here. You can take a screenshot of this if you want to see what foliage or stuff I use, if that helps you. But what I recommend for wall climbers is probably the, what is this called, the Tetrastigma vine. And we're going to use all the different kinds of that. So we have the 3 versions. We're actually not going to use this, the ivy one. I found that this is very challenging to use in like natural logs, or natural walls. And then we're also going to do, what else can we use here for wall climbers? The basket fern is definitely a good one for this. Also that. And then finally our sapling. So these are like your wall climbers, and I'll show you what I mean. We're going to start by doing the basket fern. And what we're going to do is going to put a line to surface. And it's not going to work exactly right. You get a new one here. And that. There we go. And then you're going to, well, what you're going to do is you're going to put a line to surface, you're going to put it against your rock wall, and then you're going to click off a line to surface so that it stays in this consistent thing. And from here, you can just kind of play around with putting foliage against your wall. You don't want to overcrowd it maybe. So maybe that is too much for you. Maybe you don't want to do that, so let's take that off. And let's go with something more subtle, which would be the Brazil nut sapling. Which in this case, I'm going to use to kind of like blend in the side of the wall by using this. And a helpful tip that I would find useful is that when you're doing like a whole wall, kind of like the wall's length of this, start by putting one, here we'll just back this up here, put this kid away, grab one, duplicate it, put it like this, hold on to shift or whatever you're using, like hold on to the up and down, place it Z at the same time, do it again, and like that. So that way you have it in the same kind of position and it's a lot easier to place. It's like a wall, like a vertical formation. And it looks decent, it looks pretty good. Let's add some more foliage to here. We have the Tetrastigma vine. And let's put this, I usually use the thicker one, or the one with more vines, just to make it easier on myself. And we can add a bunch of things. Now this does not look too good, I will admit. And that is because we're not using actually the foliage I use a lot when doing this stuff. I will admit I don't use this stuff too much, mainly because I haven't done a lot of tropical enclosures recently. But what we're instead going to use is some grass. So we're going to put grass at the bottom of our thing first. Just some basic stuff. I use the buffalo grass. You can also use, I don't know, the saltwater bush. There's the drain grass. All the different kind of grasses. Beautiful. You can also put grass at the top of your wall. This is also helpful because it gives off this kind of like natural feeling. You can like that. That, and you can also mix. The biggest thing with doing realistic enclosures with foliage, especially in grasses, is that you need to mix foliage really well, especially ones that have nice natural color schemes together, because it really gives off the impression of being like very versatile, because you have these kind of like off pale green like from the drink grass, but then you also have the bright green popping in from the buffalo grass, and it ultimately just gets a nice kind of like, I don't know, satisfaction, I guess. Then we're going to stick in a couple more different plants. We've got the Buddleia. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the plant names. I have no idea about how to say these. But we're going to sneak those into the top. We're going to do, what are these? The big blue stem grasses. Put those in the back. Okay. We can even do some of these, or the creosote bush, which is a super helpful bush. Put that in the back as well. So you have this very detailed kind of thing. And then if you want to add in more tropical stuff, you can add in this, which is the cabbage tree, or you could do a ponytail palm, which is also really useful in stuff like this. And you can put this directly on our planter here, to make it kind of like feel like it's growing over it. You can add in some ferns. You don't want to go over the top. Maybe that is a bit over the top. I take away the ferns. It's always about kind of like self-correction and stuff. If it's too much or too little, what's that? You can even put some periwinkle leaves on the bottom here, and then do some soil work on the ground. And there you go. That is pretty much how you do. That is pretty much how I do my natural rock work or wall work in foliage in Plant Zoo with these kinds of enclosures. So that is the foliage section of this video done. And let's get to the third section, which is in relation to this, the planters. So this is going to be an interesting one. Now this is a very wide open kind of topic. It's not just like, I guess similar to foliage where it's just kind of like you do whatever you want with it. But for planters, there's a variety of different things you can do. I'm going to show you how I made this one over here. And I also use this theme quite a lot. That the style you've seen is kind of similar. But we'll be focusing on the wooden planter, but we'll also be showcasing some of the other planters around here, like the circular one. And I'm going to show you some tips on that after we make one for ourselves. So I'm not going to use a reference one because this is a pretty self-explanatory one to do. Now, I believe the original one I used, the original plank or piece I used mainly, and the funny thing about this is that you only need one piece to build, or like one set of pieces to build a planter. So yeah, this is the ones I usually use, or at least I use in this one, is the square painted, Plan Zoo beam square painted. See, that comes in 2 meters, 4 meters, and 8 meters. Does not come in a 0.5 meter, but that's okay because we won't need that anyway. So what first we're going to do, we're going to put it on its side, again, angle snap 45 degrees. You're going to put it just above the ground. And what you want to do to make this look realistic is that when you put another one on top, you'll want to leave a bit of a gap. If you put one straight like that, it doesn't look that good, plus you have that glitchy effect if you put in the light. Kind of like that glitchy effect right in between there. So what you'll want to do is you'll put them just slightly above, so that way it looks like you have layered planks on top of each other. You can even go one step further and rotate this one, if it works for me, it does, to make it have different textures on them. So that is another thing that I found useful. Right now we're going to delete that because we just are. What we're going to do is we're also going to do for another realistic thing is we're going to not do this, where instead we're going to put a little gap between them, because again, it's basically almost like you're laying bricks. Like, you wouldn't lay bricks right up against each other. You wouldn't try to squish them together to make them look like one brick. You would have a bit of gap there, especially if you have like cement there. And in this case, you have panels of like our wooden planks going towards each other, or laying down beside each other. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to take, is this the smallest one, this thing? Yeah, it's a 2 meter. I swear I had a smaller version of this, I guess not. Now we're going to do this. Now we could do this if we wanted to, which I think I actually am. But you could also do this for like size reasons. I know this is quite big, depending on what you want to do for your planter, but we're going to do that. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Nice. And then we're going to do this. We're going to take these two, we're going to duplicate them, and we're going to put them on the other side. Now what you can do instead of this, if you want, you can take these, here, we're going to delete that, and you can make it like a whole one. So what I mean by that is, instead of doing a 2 meter one, put this back to the way it was. Where's our beam here? We can make a 4 meter one and do it like that. Also up to you. Again, it might add a bit more realism if you want. I believe I did that maybe a couple times in my build. There is a bit more of a gap there, which it's a bit hard to get. We could do like that, possibly. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. And then to get rid of that glitch effect, you just need to move one of the pieces that is overlapping on the red axis, or in the blue, or in this case the green axis, but the one just to move it slightly above. Now it can be tricky sometimes. You don't want to make it too obvious, like here we've got too big of a thing here. That is probably good. So yeah, now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these, we're going to scan them. Because they're all one piece, it makes it a lot easier to recolor. That is like kind of the exception to the rule I made earlier about recoloring things like when you begin. You can also recolor it once you begin. I like to do it here this time just because I like to see it overall. So we're going to change the color to like a nice brownish. Again, using the color palette, like look at this. This is your brown option, this is your next brown option. You have like a grayish option. Very limited in colors. If you use the color palette, you have a lot more refined color options. So now what you're going to do, I found a color I like. We're going to copy and paste that upwards. Depends on how tall you want to make this. You can make it another one up high. I'm going to stick to 2. However tall you want to make it, all good to you. Now what you can do, I stopped here with my planters. What you can also do is you can add like a plank. If we can find a good plank here. I think I usually use, where is it here? Oh wait, no, it's called the trim. That's a good piece. We're going to search up trim, and it should be here. It is this one, classic roof trim wood. And these are really useful for like any kind of building, especially like walls, which we'll get into a bit later. I didn't use it in this build, but it is another one. This is one piece that I use a lot in other builds. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go around the outside here, and you're just going to put it all along the outside until you get it around the entire thing. Pretty self-explanatory, and then once that's done, you select all the wood, or all the trim pieces, and then recolor them to kind of match the same style as this one. I didn't do that for this, for my enclosure, so I'm not going to right now, but that's pretty much all you do for that. So we have our frame of wood down. We can also do this, which I did do. You can add kind of these little out jets on the sides. We're going to do that. Okay, and then we're going to do this. Just like that. So you can choose if you want to do that or not. It may look pretty nice to you, it may not. Not really up to me. Should we keep this for ours? I guess we'll keep it for ours. Next, we're going to put the mulch in. So it's going to do that. We're going to put this, and the best tip I can tell you about mulch is to, when you're doing it, to make sure it is aligned. Like this looks pretty decently aligned for now, but just to be sure, put on align to surface and put it against one of your walls and then put it on its side. Now you can choose either way you want to do this. Maybe it's a bit more realistic if you do it this way. I usually don't really care about this because you can barely see the foliage once you're done with you can barely see the mulch after you're done with the foliage, which is a bit of a shame, but I guess, I don't know. Now we're going to do that. Alright, now you got our thing again, so you can fill that in if you want with a another mulch piece here. You can just kind of fill that in. And there you go, there's your mulch bed. Okay, now on to the final part, which is the most fun part, is our foliage. Now we're going to use generally the same kind of foliage we did last time. If you want to do for more flory or like flowery type designs, go right ahead. I don't know what you're actually using this for, it really doesn't matter. But for my builds, I usually stick to the same kind of like greenish vibe. I don't usually do too much with the flowers. I may use like a poppy field time to time, but generally I will stick to using things like the diamond, what is this called? The diamond leaf willow brush, or let me try it again. Diamond leaf willow bush, number 1. And then I just use hostas on the edges here usually. You can also put in some rocks if you want to. For this one, it's a bit big for that. Maybe add some pebbles, all that good stuff. And then we're going to add in some grass on the inner side, just to give more green. And then what else should we add here? You can also mix with the hostas. I definitely recommend mixing up the I don't even know how to say that variegated version of the hostas along with the natural version of them, because it gives a nice little kind of like vibrance to the thing, to the plant bed. Overall, it just looks very nice. You can add some more stuff. You can add some even more detail, like kind of like with the lords and ladies kind of trims. This is number 4 for the lords and ladies plant. If you really want to go out there on a bang, then you can add things like this, which I personally like doing. And then what else can we add here? I guess a few strangler vines, or not strangler, what it's called, tetrastigma, right? Just a few of those, and there you go. That's basically it. You can really do whatever you want with the foliage. It's not really up to me what you do with it. Honestly, I'm just going off of my style. You can do whatever you want with it. Now I'm going to show you 2 other kind of styles of foliage, or at least, actually no, we're not. We're actually not going to recreate more planter types, because this video is already long enough, and I don't want to do editing forever. But what I am going to show you is I'm going to take you around what we have so far, and this is kind of like a preview, I guess, so the tour of House Tropics. But I'm going to show you some other planters that we've used and some tips for how to do maybe more natural planters, because you see that this is a very small type of planter compared to something like this, whereas more as like a purpose to fill in large gaps. And this is something I do want to kind of address in a separate video about how to fill in like empty spaces in your zoo that not necessarily are for animals, but just kind of there. And the biggest thing I can say is do planters, because this is probably the most nicest or most like pretty way of like sprucing up empty spaces. And the thing I did with this is usually just add in the Twilight Masonwork wall trim, which is obviously from the Twilight pack. Recolor it to be like a bit darker gray. It really doesn't matter what color it is. I just did that to blend into the concrete pattern I have. And then just trace it all around one by one. Again, it can take some time, but I think it's worth it in the end. I mean, look at this. And then just put mulch in all of it. Even if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can, again, you barely see that. There's mulch under all of this, but you can barely see that looking at it from the top. It is all foliage, so you don't necessarily have to put mulch. I just do it just in precaution. So there's that kind of stuff. I've also used some tree ferns and all that stuff, good stuff. in there. We have these, which I don't know if I stole this from Caesar crates or I did my own. This is a pretty simple thing to make though. You have like the mesh kind of like cage for the trees if you want to do that. I tend to do those with like the smaller planters like that, and then the bigger ones like this I don't do because there's no animal getting to them. Also, this is something interesting. If you don't want to do the trim pieces and you want to do like a flat out circle, especially something small, using the fountain pieces are actually a really good way of making circular planters that are really small. And this is super helpful for, just making circular planters. It is very quick. Just fill it up with foliage after it's sunk into the ground. Put some foliage in there, put a tree in, or not. And there you go. Is there any other kind of style of planters I've really done? I think that's pretty much it. I've used on this one kind of like in more odd kind of moon shape, I guess. And I've used the timber pieces. What else we got here? I've mixed in a lot of rocks and stuff, smaller rocks, big rocks, trying to combine them to make it kind of like versatile and more nice. More trim work here, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I've done. If you do want to go the extra mile and add maybe a bit more realism, this is not a fountain. This is a giant, that is a giant trim work thing. If you want to see how to make circular planters via the trim, like making perfectly round planters like this, check out a separate video that it goes more in depth about that. I will link down in the description below or in an iCard if it's showing up or not. Sometimes it's wonky. But if you want to go the extra mile, you can also add trim to your planters. I've used the European ceiling light cable, which I believe is also from the Europe pack. It is, so that is another thing. The Europe pack has a lot of useful pieces for realism, and it is definitely something that is very useful when creating realistic enclosures, or just enclosures in general. So even if you don't like European animals that much or don't try to use them, I definitely recommend if you want to build realistic enclosures to get the Europe pack, because it is definitely a very good one. And if you want to see what other packs are good for realism and making good enclosures, then definitely check out my reviews in the shorts tab of my channel, because we have reviews for all of the packs. They're a bit dated. They were like 9 months ago, but most of them still hold up. So yeah. Anyway, for planters, is there anything else? I've used the rustic metal planter from the barnyard pack here in one, but other than that, that's pretty much it. Mostly it's just a use of like concrete and wood kind of paneling to make whatever kind of planter you want. But ultimately, it's just have fun with it. Make whatever kind of cool shapes you want. Of course, you can have rectangular ones like that. You can have really wonky shapes like this, like it goes like straight here and then it goes to curved again. All sorts of fun with that. But anyway, let's move on to the next part of the video, or the next section, which is making realistic walls. So now we're moving away from the foliage, kind of like the outdoor parts of the enclosure, to the insides and the actual building part of it, like the actual building part of it. So the last two subjects are making realistic walls and also making realistic roofing, which these two vary a lot, because you're not going to make the same kind of wall for every single enclosure you do, and the same kind of roof for everything. Actually, I kind of do that for mine, because you can see a lot of them are similar, like the roofing is like there is similar to over here, but that's not the point. We're going to be focusing on walls next, and how to build those. I'm going to be showing you how to make two different kinds of walls. Actually, we're going to do the same thing as last time. I'm going to show you how to make this wall, and then I'm going to show you a bunch of other walls around the place and how I built those. So we've gone for the same kind of similar vibe, I guess, to the planters with the wood. So what you're going to do is, first of all, you're going to actually take a gridded wall piece. And this is one of the times where I said earlier that gridded pieces actually do come in handy. First of all, there are some wall pieces that on the grid that actually look really nice. The concrete one, the limestone one. What else? We got the tropical pack wall set is definitely also a good one. We'll get to that in a second, because that's what the House of Tropics is made out of. But for now, right now, we're going to be using the concrete wall. It doesn't really matter what color it lists. I'm gonna put it more like a darker shade of gray, I guess, so that probably works like that. But what we're really going to do, you're really not going to see any of this. What we're going to do is we're going to search up the same beam that we did last time. What was that called? Beam, square, painted. Yes, okay. So, we're going to put align to surface on again. Make sure angle snap is on, which it wasn't, now it is. We're going to do this, and we're going to do the same kind of style we did with the planters. And what we're going to do is put like that. Put it to the top. We're not gonna. We could, again, we can color code if you want it. If you want to change the color of it now, go ahead. It doesn't really matter if you don't. You can do it later. What you want to do is do that, and then select a smaller option. Right, this one across here is 4 meters. This is 2 meters. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one there, again adding that little slip kind of like in between the two beams to make it look kind of realistic. And then from there, you're just going to do this. Let's Control X those. I'm sorry if you're playing on, if you're an Xbox or a console player. I'm using, I'm on PC, so anytime I say like Control X or something like Control C, I am talking about PC, because that's what I'm using. But obviously this applies to console players just as much, because I believe you do probably have a lot, access to a lot of these pieces by now, because there's like 10 packs coming out for console players, or have been coming out anyway. So you're going to keep copying and pasting this over and over again until you cover the entire wall, just so carefully so that you're still leaving those crevices. There you go. Again, we can delete, here we have the entire thing here, making sure it's not connected to anything. What we can do here is just kind of like cover that up just a bit, so we don't have to deal with that tiny little part poking out. Now what you're going to do, you're going to select the entire thing, unselect the concrete wall in the back, and then you're going to color all of this, and that's probably good enough for what we have right now. And again, like we did last time, you can rotate parts of the wall, or the pieces, to make them look a bit more like different from each other, to make it look a bit more unique. You don't have to do this. I don't do it often. I am kind of lazy when it comes to it. I should do it, but I just don't. And yeah, that's really it. And this is basically what I did for the wall set of this. Now, if you want to make cutouts like that, where we have it like this, let's go into here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into the group of this, and we're going to select everything, and you're going to put it we're going to leave the space open, and we're going to do it like that. Now you want to visualize what kind of like how big you want your door to be. Obviously that's not going to be going to the top of the wall in this case, so we're going to start putting beams across. Actually, you know what, we're going to do something even better. What we're going to do is we're going to go search up concrete, and we're going to get this, the concrete wall panel, the off-grid one, 1 by 2 meters. Now we already have the color selected, because it just automatically puts it in. We're going to line it up with our thing. This could be a bit tricky, especially if you don't have the right lighting, which I'm going to try and fix now. Okay, that's good enough. We're going to try and select it like that. Good. Again, not a crucial important thing, but just nice to have here. Now what we're going to do, just that. Perfect. We're going to copy and paste that. Move it over. Perfect. Alright, now we're going to move that one more time. Probably like there. Okay, and there we go. Now what you're just going to do, so basically you're making the outline of the door with the concrete, because it is a lot easier to visualize where the door will be with the concrete, because it takes up a lot more room than doing wooden beams one by one. Plus it's a lot more unpredictable, or like you can't really visualize as well when using the beams of where your door will be. So what you're going to do now is you're just going to take a bit more of that, and if you want to be really even, after we put that down, select both of them, put them on the other side. And what we're actually going to do is take away those two, select those two, put them below, and there you go. Now from here on, I want to save a bit of time with the video, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be over half an hour long. Basically what you're going to do from here is you're just going to take the beams, and you are going to copy and paste them and move them over one by one until you cover the entire rock or concrete part of this. And then from there, you would be able to, I'm just going to show you over here because you do not really have the time for that. From there, you will end up with something like this, and then you can use whatever you want for like the kind of like the doors. I've used the, what are these called? The New World Sign Editable, because these are just very like plain. They just look like metal doors. And then I've also used the hinges, the European window shutter hinge, which is also, I believe, from the Europe pack. Again, the Europe pack is a lot very useful for this kind of stuff. I've also used kind of like a, I don't know what this is. This is the Habitat web camera, but I'm sure there's something else that is easier to use for like a wall thing if you want to have like a sliding kind of thing. The main thing you want to watch with building the doors or the implied doorways for your animals is that the doors do not cover up the actual doorway to the thing, because if you do it like this, if you have it something like that, then it can make it harder, or it can potentially mess up the traversable area of your animal, which can stop them from coming in. So you want to make sure that your doors are always either like, if it's like a push, like an up and down one, you have it like here, and then if it's like a side ones, then you have it out of the way from the actual door, just like this. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to those kinds of walls. Now we're going to take a quick jog through the House of Tropics and see some other kind of walls you can make. If it comes to more concrete, in this case I've just used the concrete panels. The concrete wall panels are very well, you don't even have to do anything to them. What I have done with these to be a bit more extra is added the grunge decals to them. And what I want to do is, what I'll show you guys, is the surface decal grunge. If we look at this, grunge, just search up grunge there. Usually the ones that are like in straight lines, like this one, or this one, or even this one too. These ones usually I use on the sides of walls, like this. When you have like a column and then a wall right here, it is definitely useful, or definitely like very nice and realistic, to have one of these going against the side of it, to make it a bit more, I don't know, like, I don't even know what kind of like effect this gives off. I don't know what we even call that, but it's just kind of like a grimy, kind of like older. It gives like the building a kind of older style to it, and tells it it's been like kind of rough around the edges, which is basically what you would see in a regular zoo kind of building. And then for the remaining grunge pieces, like this one, just like your more general blob ones, just put them around. They'll face the center of the wall and stuff like that. And it turns out looking pretty well. And you can see that with this. Now again, it does do some pretty wonky things in the shadows. Like you can see, it's kind of being glitchy here. I can't really do anything about that. It is only when it is in the shadows, because again the sun can be like that. It can kind of mess up what parts of your enclosure are in the day, or what parts of your enclosure are in light and what parts are not, and some of the times it's just uncontrollable. But yeah, that is what I did for that. On the inside here we have the same concrete. I've added a plaster wall panel, just non-grid. Just put it around the perimeter of here to make it look kind of nicer, and just give it a more finished touch, I guess. What else we got? This is what I was talking about, the Tropical Pack wall, which is the Indonesian temple brick wall, which is originally orange. If we go into here, this one, yes, this is what it originally looks like, but I've recolored it to be more like a gray kind of like style, so more like brick, and it works wonders. It's also something you can go really extra with that is not necessary, but if you want to. This is the Twilight Mason wall trim that we used earlier for the planters. I've turned it on its side, which is originally how we saw it before. It was like that, just dug into the ground. With this, I've turned it on its side and used it as a kind of like a wall trim, I guess, on the bottom of the wall, so that looks really nice, and it kind of blends in. It's very like blending, like very natural, and with the foliage in the back, so that looks really cool. For this, for more natural logs, or my natural walls, I've used just the log wall, like we did with the planters. What else we got here? A lot of these enclosures, you've used the stalagmite wall. If you're doing habitat walls, kind of like a fence, or like a moat, I recommend this, which is the Indonesian mossy stone. I don't know what that says. Cornice midsection, which basically, if you search up Tropical Pack, in case you cannot memorize that name, which I would not blame you, it looks like this. This is basically the original thing. You would turn it on its side, like that, and then just put two of them together to make that, and color them both the same color to make it look very gray, like a normal rock, or like a concrete kind of wall. Other than that, we'll be doing, maybe I'll do a separate video for aviaries like this, because that is a complete different kettle of fish. So let me know if you want to see that. This is the tropical wall also. I don't know if there's anything else I can really say. This is interesting. This is a very special thing that I'm surprised I came up with myself. This is made up of the Twilight Window Beam Medium, which is, again, from the Twilight Pack. If we go into Twilight, we go down here. It should be somewhere here. No, that's not it. I think it's the very end. Yeah, it's this one. But we've used this. No, wait, not that. This one. And I've kind of angled this to be like over top of each other, so it looks kind of like a kind of jagged kind of style of concrete, which looks really nice. And then the same style of like plaster on the inside. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to wall pieces. That's everything I have in this in this zoo. I think that's pretty much encompassing what I usually do for walls. But yeah, let's move on to the final step, or the final piece of the puzzle, roofing. Alright, we're on to the last part of the tutorial, which is, I don't know if this is the most important, but it definitely is a key feature in any building. And we're going over roofing. So this is going to be interesting here. I'm going to show you how I made this, which is a general kind of style of roof I kind of like to do for like simplicity's sake. It's also very similar to things like this, or a very similar style you'll figure out. We're not going to be able to go over this, because this is something completely different that takes freaking ages, and I would not recommend doing this yourself. I don't understand why I did it myself, because I like to torture myself, but yeah, I'm not even sure if I'm doing another one of these, because this is really ridiculous. The same kind of style here, so we'll be showing you how to make the general same style of this. This like the otter enclosure. This was kind of just like basically combining those classic roof trim wood pieces, kind of putting them together between standing them up straight and putting them on their side. Just copying and pasting a group of them over and over again into this kind of like array of the thing. And then the rest of the House of Tropics building is kind of just these like New World murals on a slant, and then you have the concrete on there as well. What I will be showing you how to do is how to make these cool edges and stuff on the edge of the enclosures or the roofing. What I used to make all this stuff, and especially how to do those cool rectangular or triangular prism roofs. So yeah, let's get right into this. So first thing we're going to do, we're not going to use a referencing again. First thing we're going to do is we're going to actually start with, why is my screen being glitchy? I'm sure that's just me, but anyway. You're going to search up plate, I believe it's called. Yes, you're going to search up plate, and we're going to take this. And I didn't actually know this color, flexi color, so you can do that if you want. If you can change the color of it, I don't really know. I think I like the color of it originally, so I don't really like changing it, or I don't really feel like it's needed. But if you want to, go right ahead. So what we're going to do is we're going to face it to the back, because this is the side you're going to see looking at the roof from a viewer's perspective, or like a audience perspective. So you're going to place one, and we're going to do a couple more, and you're just going to try and line them as best you can. You can do the thing we were talking about earlier with like leaving a bit of room beside them. I don't do that as much with these, because I just I don't know. I don't feel as troubled to do it this time. So now you have a group of them, and we're gonna keep pasting these. That's probably good, honestly, for now. So we're gonna just keep those. What is like 9? That's 3. Yeah, that's 3, 3, and 9. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our plaster. So you're going to search up plaster, and you're going to scroll down until we have this, the plaster wall panel 4x4 non-gridded. There is a difference, because there is plaster floor on grid floor. You can also use this, actually. I don't really mind if you do. I just usually like using this because it is a bit thinner. Just makes it easier. Or I don't know, it just makes it a bit nicer. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up one piece of the plaster with that, and then you're going to line up a second piece of the plaster like that, directly on top. What you're going to do now is you're going to put both of those in a group, and we're going to flexi-color them to kind of match that color of the plating. That's pretty good there. Alright, now you're going to select all of this, make sure it's all connected. Now you're going to, there's two ways you can do this. You can select it all at once and then go around, or hold on, wait, what is happening here? Oh, we did not select everything at once. There we go, now select everything at once. There we go. Now go into the group. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can select everything at once and then do this. This is what I was talking about with the x-axis kind of being annoying. With that. So what you can do instead is you can split these apart into just the plaster and the plating. And what you can do first is do the plating. So if it's if it's the same material in a group, then it will not do the kind of like weird axis thing. If you do it like two of the same materials, then it will just have the straight like 90-degree angles, or just like this kind of axis. So what you're going to do now is you're going to spread out how big you want your roof to be. You can do the perimeter, you can do anything you want. What I usually do, maybe if I don't plan on doing windows, which I actually usually do, you're going to do that. You're going to put them all into one, and then you're just going to like spread out thinking. You want to make sure that you have both of your layers of plaster on here, because if you do not, then that can be quite a problem going forward. So we're gonna we'll leave it at that for now. Okay, now you're gonna do the same thing basically with your plating, but you're obviously only going to do the perimeter, so you're gonna be very careful, as close as you can without doing that gridding, because let's face it, if you have it like this, and you just go, whoops, I sneezed, and then you're just day's ruined. Alright, so we're gonna go back to this. There we go, that. And that's pretty good. We're just gonna do maybe one more, just like that. There we go. Alright, now what we're gonna do, you can do, is select all of this, Control X, and we're gonna basically copy and paste it and put it on the other side. Gonna line it up again, best we can do. That looks pretty good to me. And then now what you're gonna do is you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna Control X again, and you're gonna copy and paste that on this side. Now this is very easy. You really only need one side to do it, and then you can just copy and paste that side onto all the other sides, which makes it a heck of a lot easier to do. Control X over here. Best we can do, and right there is looking mighty fine. And there you go. So now we have our, this is basically the base of your roof. Now you can select all of this, put it under one thing, and that's basically what we did to get to this stage. Now, obviously, you know a big difference between this roof and the one I have on the actual building is that there's no windows or anything on it. So we're gonna fix that. Now what you're gonna do it depends on where you want to put the windows. I usually do them in kind of like the middle. Do like probably two slits, maybe three at max. I think I do have that on the one of my other buildings. But yeah, with this one you have three. For this one we're gonna do two because I am running out of time to finish this video up. You're gonna get rid of the middle sections, and what you're gonna do instead is you're gonna select the bottom layer, one of the bottom layer pieces, and you're gonna do this. Now what you're gonna do is you're going to keep that. Oops, I made a mistake there. What you're going to do, what you're going to want to do to keep the color, is move this out of here, and then do the smaller version. Put angle snap on, put it right against here, and by this, you're basically picturing where you want your windows to go. So, if we want our windows to be like, I don't know, like there, maybe like, yeah, maybe one here and one here, so that seems pretty good to me. You're going to do the same thing that you did all this time. We're going to do this to make sure we get rid of the glitchiness, and then you're going to do this again on the other side, so it's symmetrical. Okay, we're going to make sure we don't come through that. Select all four, put them up to line up with the top layer, just like that. Okay, we can get rid of that other piece now that we had. That was just for making sure we had the right thing. This does look a bit bigger, so I'm going to try and fix this. Looks like both of those. I do, actually, hold on, we'll do this. And then we can just move this a bit closer here. That looks a bit better. Yeah, I'd say so. Alright, now what we're going to do, we're going to take our plating, and we are going to line the inside. We're going to take a small batch of this. We're just going to do this. I'm going to speed through this just because it's pretty self-explanatory what we're doing here. Okay, we're going to copy and paste that over there. Turn that around. Same thing on this side. Then you're going to take a small portion of that. Do that. Okay. Oh, I broke our rule about overlapping. Alright, now we're going to select all these. Same thing as before. Turn it around. Put it like that. Command C them over here. Now what you could have done is you could have done made the plating for one of these, and then just control or copy and paste it all over to this. I didn't do that. It doesn't really matter. You'll end up with the same result anyway, so it's just a bit of a shortcut there. So you can do, we're just gonna refine these. Okay, so now you have this, which is good. You can have two options here. You can either put glass. We can use the same glass as we used before, glass pane, and we're gonna do this. So you can either do a like a flat glass roof like this. You can just put one there and one there. Capiche, done. Or you can make a triangular piece, which is a bit more complex, but we're gonna try it very quickly here. What we're gonna do, we're gonna do this. We're gonna take a glass pane and we're gonna line it up with our plating here. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna have to do. And then what we're gonna do here is we're going to take this, just like so. Now it's a bit off. You can obviously correct this if you want. Again, I'm just doing this as an example, so it doesn't really matter too much. We're going to do that, and then we're going to copy and paste this, and we're going to line it up just like that, and we're going to put it on power with our other plating, and you can see obviously these overlap. This is obviously a very sloppy job. For our other example, I think I used a different piece. Yes, I used... Okay, I did use the glass modern wall. I think I just made the roof thick enough so you can't see it. But this does go past, obviously, that first layer of plaster, which this one would as well. If you go underneath, if you were to move this one there, you could actually probably cover that up. Actually, yeah, it's fine. Here, because look at that. If we select all this, you put it up, you can't actually, even though this goes through the plaster, you cannot actually see it underneath, which is really handy. So now we have that. Now we can do the same thing for here. Put it through the plaster. And then you take that, those 4 glass pieces, copy and paste them to the other side. And there you go. That is basically it for glass. Now obviously, again, that's a very sloppy job with the glass triangles. I'm not going to go super in detail about it. Basically what you can do is you can add beams to the outsides of the panes, or the glass panes. I use the European mark beam, just because, and there's also other things I've used. For example, over here I used I think it's the ceiling. Yeah, the ceiling fan cable. Also very useful, and you can recolor it to be more green, like I have done here. You can do it like a rustic style, like a brown or a metal kind of like gray. Anything you want to do there. Again, the glass pane also looks good here with the glass panes. You can also use the ventilation systems and the air cons for roof decorations. Again, this is called air con, so just, well, not I usually search it up like that. It actually is called an air con. Conservation air con bend. So you can combine these into different shapes and stuff. However you want to decorate up your fences or your roofs. But yeah, that is pretty much it for roofing, and that kind of concludes our entire tutorial. So let's wrap it back up at the conclusion. I'll see you in a second. Alright, so there you have it. There is everything there you need to know, or at least I hope it's a good beginner's guide about how to make realistic enclosures. I tried to cover or at least all of the main essentials. I covered foliage, fencing, shelter, all the things that I usually use in a regular enclosure, everything that I keep in mind when building those kinds of things. So I'm hoping that I could share something, or you guys could learn something from this video. I would really hope so, because it took so long to edit this. But I hope you I know this is probably getting out after the holidays, because actually for me Christmas is tomorrow, so I'm definitely not getting this out on the holidays. Definitely not getting out on Christmas Day or whatever like that. But whenever this does come out, I do hope you guys had a fantastic Merry Christmas, or if you don't celebrate Christmas, have a very happy holidays. But I really hope you guys learned something from this. Let me know if you want to do something else, or if you want me to do more tutorials like this. I have done a couple smaller ones in like a few months ago. Let me know if you do want tutorials, if you want them like in a shorter form like that, if this one was too much, or if you want longer, more extended tutorials like this, because I feel like these are a bit more boring to watch because they're longer, but I feel like I can get a lot more knowledge across. Like I can teach you guys a lot more with longer videos like this. So it just depends on what you guys actually enjoy seeing or what you actually are interested in. Like how long can you actually pay attention and stay interested in this video, in videos like these before you get kind of bored with them. I also did want to kind of do a style of this video tutorial for larger enclosures, because I know this is quite a small one and not everyone is going to build small enclosures for animals or small animals, because it'd be amazing if we could do something like that for like an elephant enclosure or something like that. But we will see. That is probably going to be something to consider in the new year. Speaking of that, I might not get a video. I might get a video up before New Year's. I probably actually won't, because I'm kind of taking a bit more time back to spend with family and just take a break from the channel. Just at the end of the year, I am overall proud and thankful you guys throughout the year. I guess this is probably the final video I will make for this year. But yeah, thank you for everyone who has subscribed, who has followed along with the madness. This year has been a bit of a chaotic year, because at the beginning of the year we lost OakWood Zoo, and we're just kind of finding our footing again. But now I feel like we're at a good pace. I feel like right now we're just kind of in a mood of just like making videos whenever I can. I've kind of done a jumbled mix of like tutorials and speed builds and trying to focus on other games as well. So and I really appreciate to the people who actually do watch those other content, even if it's something that isn't Planet Zoo or like anything regular. I do appreciate the people who watch those, because I just want to try and get a bit more variety on the channel, so I do appreciate that those videos do still get some interactions and some clicks on them. But anyway, that's really all I have to say. If you like this video, if you found something helpful in this video, please hit the subscribe button, because you do not know what it means to me. You do not know how nice it would be to see people more subscribe after the editing of this video, of how it took so long. But please, that is just your reminder. If you enjoyed this video, if you've enjoyed content in like recent months, and you haven't subscribed and you haven't realized it, please hit the subscribe button. It is free. It just supports the channel a lot. It helps me a lot. And I'm really thankful for you guys. We just crossed 1,700 subscribers, so hopefully we can get to 2,000 subscribers next year. So yeah, I hope you all have enjoyed. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I will see you guys probably in the new year. Let me know your favorite tip, or let me know something that you found useful about this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.